What's up, guys? Welcome into another episode of the Wolverine Live Recruiting Show. We are almost a week till signing day. Next Wednesday is recruiting's most important day. Zach and I have been busy preparing. I was actually in the DMV earlier today with Dominic Nichols and Devin Baxter, Michigan's edge commits, doing some signing day stuff, which is why we have the late start. Zach has been at home manning the ship. We hope to have a lot of cool recruiting content here exclusively on our YouTube channel. Isn't that right, Zach? You've been working hard behind the scenes on the YouTube stuff.
We are making sure that everyone goes to Wolverine.com and on the YouTube channel for signing day on the 20th. So exclusive content, great features. So looking forward to it.
Definitely. And tonight's podcast is sponsored by Leonard Financial Solutions. Leonard Financial Solutions founder Jonathan Leonard wants to listen to you to get to know your story and how he can best help you. People often hesitate to contact a financial advisor because they think they have to know what they want first. Leonard Financial Solutions founder Jonathan Leonard will start with you at square one, getting to know you and your unique situation. You don't want to outlive your retirement money. You don't want to make risky investments. You don't want your loved ones to experience financial insecurity. Leonard Financial Solutions wants to alleviate your fears by providing you with options for life insurance, income protection, retirement income, safe annuities, and Medicare. They take the time to explain the pros and cons of each product and will not rush you through the decision-making process. When is the best time to sit down with a financial advisor? It's now. Whether you are just starting out, hoping to retire in the next 5 years, or already retired, Leonard Financial Solutions wants to help you make smart decisions about your money. Get the expert financial advice without the high-pressure sales pitch. Reach out to get started today for a free consultation at www.leonardfs.com. or call 856-444-LIFE. Again, that's www.leonardfs.com or call 856-444-LIFE. So like I said, signing day right around the corner. Make sure to also get a subscription to the Wolverine right now, $1 for 1 month, and you get premium insider access throughout the month. Signing day, you get coverage heading into the Rose Bowl. We have Seth Floyd going to the Rose Bowl himself. So shout out to you, man. There's a lot of people getting on here. So shout out to everybody that's joining us tonight. People not necessarily happy with your hat selection, with your hoodie selection. Maybe they're fine with the hat. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into Michigan recruiting. The Wolverines had a nice late flip here over the weekend as USC defensive line commit Deyvid Palepale flipped his verbal pledge from the Trojans to Michigan. A big win here, one we alluded to last week. I kind of covered this recruitment, so I'll explain the recruitment and how everything happened and what I think about Palepale since I've seen him live. Before I do, Zach, I asked you this question last week. Now it's become official. You've had time to marinate. What do you think about the defensive line class overall as Michigan gets ready to sign all these guys in the trenches?
I think they're all the same in a way, which is a great thing. And I think it shows the kind of character and athlete that Michigan defensive line coach Mike Elston is searching for on the recruiting trail. I mean, you can use buzzwords like, blue collar, get guys who go to work every day, guys who put their heads down and, grind it out. In terms of how Palepale fits, he's exactly what a nose tackle would bring in that scheme, in that 4-2 front. He's, you watch him on film, especially his one clip as a senior, he's very versatile at the high school level, and he's very comfortable playing multiple positions. But for someone who's close to 315, well over 305, you can plug him in as that A gap run stuffer. From watching what I've seen, he uses his hands well. He's able to continue his motor to get a tackle. He's able to bend at his size, which is great. But it's easy to make comparisons. That Haloti Ngata type, that star Lolo Tule type, just guys who you can plug in multiple gaps. Can take on double teams well. continues to work and fight to get into the backfield. So I feel like this is a really good addition for Michigan, and I feel like this is something that, just based on character wise too, from what you've talked to him and what the coaching staff have seen, it seems like he's a culture fit and someone who's going to get to work as soon as possible.
Definitely. We actually have a viewer I want to shout out that's apparently watching all the way from Bolivia. He can't go to Michigan's Rose Bowl game. He'll have to watch it on apparently semi-legal cable, but just wanted to give him a shout out since he's joining us all the way from Bolivia. People around the world tuning into the show tonight. Let's talk about Deyvid Palepale again, kind of to give my thoughts. I have seen Deyvid Palepale live. I went out and watched him practice in late spring, early summer, right before he took his official visit to Michigan. I also stopped by his school a couple of times. I recently went out to watch him do a speed workout. So unfortunately, I was never able to see him play a game, given the fact that he committed to USC. So never really went out to see him play. But I have seen him move around, do some drills, have a helmet on. So I feel like I have a pretty good sense of what Palepale brings to the table. I think Zach kind of hit on that. And I think he's a guy that definitely could fit in at the nose spot really well. He's not as long as a Kenneth Grant type, but he can take up multiple blockers. He's athletic enough and has a high enough motor to do some Kenneth Grant-like things. But I also think he can play the 3 technique really well. I think he could potentially play the 4-eye. He has a really stout build. He's completely compact, just upper half, lower half. I mean, he's built like a tree trunk in a sense. He's about 6'2.5", 315 right now. I don't think he adds that much weight. Like, I think he'll stick around 335, 340. But either way, he's a massive piece along the defensive line. And I know a lot of you are probably wondering, well, if you have such high praise for him, why is he ranked so low? I just don't think a lot of people ever saw him. He's a guy that played at Hempfield, which isn't a really well-known school in Pennsylvania. It's out in Amish country, and, just didn't get any eyeballs on him, didn't do any major camps this offseason either. I think I'm the only recruiting reporter nationally that's ever seen this guy. So just not a lot of eyeballs on him. Also coming over from Alaska, he had to kind of get adjusted there. And then as a senior, he only played 3 games. So not a lot of senior film out there on him. So we're currently ranked just inside the top 800. But I really like Palepale. I think he's one of the more underrated recruits in the country right now. Just doesn't have a lot of film and doesn't have a lot of eyeballs on him. And, just to address this, because I know it's been brought up all over social media and David's not ignorant to it either, is the fact that he didn't play a lot as a senior because he had an incident with the high school coach. Basically, he made a social media post that was in jest saying that his team needed a new coach. And so the coach didn't take kindly to that. And Palepale ended up transferring, but he also missed a lot of his season because of a foot injury. So again, only played 3 games, but I bring up the coach disagreement thing to say that I think he just made a mistake, and he's a 17-year-old kid that was making a joke on social media. I don't think it's acceptable, but I do think it would have been better for his former program to use it as a teaching moment as opposed to just kicking a kid off the team. It makes no sense, especially one that's, done a lot for your program and is going to go play at the next level. So I do want to say that I've gotten to know David throughout this entire process. I think he's a great kid. I think he just made one stupid mistake. I think the staff thinks he's a great kid as well. They wouldn't have welcomed him to the class if they didn't. And the other commits in the class think he's a good fit too. He's already friends with guys like Dominic Nichols and Owen Wayfull. So I think he's got the stamp of approval from everybody needed. I just think it was one mistake. And, in terms of how this recruitment played out, I really feel like he was going to end up at Michigan to begin with. Early on in the process, it seemed like Michigan was going to earn a commitment. He actually pretty much basically gave us a silent commitment behind the scenes going into his official visit. But like I said, he's originally from Alaska. He has family up and down the West Coast. He went out and visited USC and committed on the spot, and then immediately kind of started having second guesses. In November, he was actually watching the Penn State game, which was a pretty cool story. And he saw Kenneth Grant hawk down Katron Allen, and he ended up texting Mike Elston right after that play and said, "Go Blue." They got back in communication. Palepale got in contact with Harbaugh through Elston. Harbaugh gave him the green light to commit. So he committed behind the scenes around Thanksgiving and obviously just made it public this weekend. But I think Michigan is always where he really wanted to be deep down. I think growing up a USC fan and having family out there and originally being from Alaska, I think that played a role in him committing on a spot. But I do think that, he came back around to what was his real home. And I do think he's a great player. I think he's a great kid. I think him and Owen Wayful are going to be a dynamic, underrated duo at Michigan in the future. Let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. Michigan is hosting an official visitor in the 2024 recruiting class right now. Lugard Edokpayi actually arrived on Monday night for his official visit, which began this morning on 300 EDGE out of the DMV. I had a chance to talk to him right before his OV, literally as he was about to get on the plane, and had a lot of great things to say at Michigan. So you can go find that over at thewolverine.com for $1 for 1 month. Now, before I talk about Edokpayi and give the intel that I got from seeing him before he took off to the Michigan visit, same question to you, Zach. The Edge room, if Michigan is able to close with Edokpayi after losing out on Jacob Smith and Elias Rudolph, obviously flipped away from Michigan, it would be Edokpayi, Devin Baxter, Dominic Nichols, the DMV trio. How would you feel about that Edge haul?
Specifically with Lugard, knowing what we know these past few months with Elias Rudolph flipping to Miami and then Jacob Smith flipping to Kentucky a month later. And most recently, on 300 Kansas commit, Deshaun Warner didn't end up visiting. This is the kid that you really want to plug in for this class. He's, from people that I've spoken to, he's regarded as arguably the highest upside among all edges in the 2024 class. 6'7", 215 pounds, 220 pounds, just a physical specimen that you can mold into just an elite pass rusher. He has so much more room to fill out. And I'm just going to take a quote from your article with this head coach. He mentioned he can get up to 260 pounds. And based on, photos and videos, like that's entirely possible. Physically too, he has a crazy long arms. His hands are big. He uses that to have success on the football field, in terms of just shedding blocks and getting leverage on the outside. But a kid of his structure and how you can construct him into being a Big Ten pass rusher, Michigan is just the ideal place, right? With that strength and conditioning program under Ben Herbert, the direction of Mike Elston, Jesse Minter, defensive coordinator, and staffer Dylan Roney. Like, this is an opportunity, right, to get a kid who can develop over a couple of years and plug in as a starter. I found out too that he's kind of young for the class too. Like, he's about to he'll turn 18 in April or May, so he's still learning the sport too, but he still has so much growth both physically and emotionally. So as a pure speed rusher, there's just a role in that defense for Michigan for a guy like him. You saw it with landing Elias Rudolph in July, you saw it with landing a kid like Jacob Smith, but with Lugard, you're just a kid who can pin your ears back, get after the quarterback, get into the backfield. And after, like I said, developmental progressions over the years, there's just, you can reach that upside. And I feel like, Michigan is a great place for a kid like him.
Just want to remind you guys that today is not the Q&A show. So if you do want a question answered on tonight's show, you can leave a super chat. That money goes directly to our travel budget so we can go around the country and continue to see Michigan recruit and commit. If you don't have the dollars to support today, just leave a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That is free and you can support the show. I think Zach's exactly right. I mean, you have a guy that has a ton of potential here. And I wish more of the Michigan fan base would be excited about Lugard. I mean, he's an On300 guy. The staff has made him its top defensive target left on the recruiting board this cycle. I mean, they've made him the priority. Things kind of just faded away with Deshaun Warner, who's committed to Kansas. They've really gone all in on Lugard. They haven't even offered any other edge guys. I mean, he is the guy on the board. I know for a fact that they evaluated a few other prospects this fall and checked out senior film and things of that nature, but they really wanted to go all in on Lugard. I think that right now, you know, we kind of, Zach kind of broke down his game a little bit. But I mean, 6'7" is legit. I think he's 6'6.5" on his profile, but I mean, I'd give him 6'7". I'm 6'1", and I mean, this guy towers over me. Right now, he looks like a basketball player. He has that length and just, again, kind of looks like an NBA player with that wingspan and that height. But he weighs 215 right now, but he has so much room to get up to that 260 that Zach talked about. And I could definitely see him filling out to that. So he's just such an intriguing prospect with a really high ceiling. And you kind of get that in Devin Baxter as well. And then you get more of a high floor in Dominic Nichols. So it's a good little mix if Michigan's able to close. So will they close is the obvious question here. Look, Edokpayi has already made official visits to Minnesota and to Rutgers and to Maryland. Texas A&M was a top school early on, but they have been eliminated. Jimbo Fisher, you had that whole coaching change situation. So A&M is out. So again, Maryland, Rutgers, Minnesota, Big Ten teams, but kind of on the lower end. I think right now, you know, those schools are still factors, and, you know, maybe Lou shocks everybody and picks one of those programs. But I think Michigan, Florida State are probably the two schools at the top and are the two schools hosting him for his last visit. So like I said, he's at Michigan right now. He's going to Florida State on Friday directly from Ann Arbor. And I think we'll just know a lot more about his recruitment after his OVs end. This is a kid that didn't pick up his first Power 5 offer until October. These relationships with the staff are brand new. He's never been to these campuses. He's learning on the fly. I think the two things that really helped Michigan in this recruitment, I was exchanging messages with the program source earlier today, and he agreed with this. There are two things that Michigan can win over Edokpayi and his family with. And one is academics. Michigan is the best school on that list by far. I mean, Florida State's a pretty good school. I think Rutgers is a good regional school, but Michigan obviously offers an elite education, and Edokpayi is a really high academic kid, and his family really values what, you know, a potential degree from Michigan could mean for him. And the second thing is development. I actually spoke to an SEC coach who was interested in offering Edokpayi, ended up not offering him because he already had the necessary amount of edge guys, and their head coach wanted to hit the transfer portal. But he told me he really liked Lugard, and that if the kid was smart, he would go to Michigan because it's a great fit for the development of pass rushers. And so I think Michigan's edge production in general, as well as getting him face-to-face time with Ben Herbert, I think that's going to go a long way on this official visit. So I could easily see Michigan coming out on top in this recruitment. It's tough to predict right now just because he blew up so late. And like I said, he has to learn everything on the fly about these programs and establish relationships in literally a really short time period. He told me he's going to look to decide maybe Monday or Tuesday, but if he needs more time, he might be a signing day announcement. So coming down to the wire for Lugard Edokpayi. Before we move on to our next subject, guys, I do want to remind you, I've seen some questions in the chat. This is our Tuesday night show, which means if you want a question answered, hit that super chat button and support us, and we will get your question answered. But before we move on to our final topic, we want to welcome our other sponsor here, Barry Gallagher. He's written a book, Lloyd Carr's Michigan Football Journey. Millions of Michigan Wolverine football fans loved Coach Lloyd H. Carr Jr. as much as he loved the University of Michigan. This insightful book details how an interim coach stepped up for the Michigan Wolverines and won his way into the College Football Hall of Fame. Lloyd Carr's Michigan football journey tells a complete story of his 28-year journey, 15 years as an assistant and 13 years as a head coach, to bring Michigan football back to national prominence and keep it there. This book gives you a comprehensive look at the amazing career of Lloyd Carr. It is full of original research, charts, and tables that clearly illustrate how and why Coach Carr became a college football legend. Rich Hewlett, one of Carr's first players at Michigan, wrote a heartfelt foreword that sets the tone for a closer look at one of college football's greatest coaches. Order your copy today at Amazon or at mden.com. So Edokpayi is the only visitor for the midweek that's an actual recruit. I know our team guys are probably covering the transfer portal targets. This weekend will feature 3 Michigan commits getting in their official visits. These are the only 3 commits that haven't made their OVs yet, obviously, which is why they're doing it right now. Those 3 guys are On300 cornerback Josiah Edmond, 3-star linebacker Zachary Ludwig, and On300 linebacker Jaden Smith. Now, Zach, you have gotten close with Josiah Edmond and Zach Ludwig. Let's hit on them for a little bit. Let's show them some love. You know, what can you tell the fans about Josiah Edmond and Zach Ludwig?
Yeah, let's start off with Josiah Edmond first, out of Napanee, Indiana, Northeast Indiana. When he committed to Michigan in early August, he was a 3-star, but On3 specifically has really gotten to understand just how much of an athletic freak this player is. As you mentioned, On300 right now, and I think that's the perfect ranking for a kid like him and what he can bring to the table at Michigan. I've seen him in game twice this season, last season, most recently for a playoff game where he played exclusively at the cornerback position on man, to be exact, which is the position that Michigan wants him at. Steve Klingscale and that staff worked really hard to flip him from Purdue in the summer after that barbecue at the Big House visit in July. So, in each game too, he obviously showed a versatility as well. I mean, I've seen him play the nickel. I've seen him play like an outside linebacker, deep safeties, like that hybrid role safety. He's also played wide receiver, running back, kick returner, punt returner. I've also seen him punt. So he's just a utility player at the high school level, but in terms of just who he is at the next level, I mean, he's just a dog, right? Like, he's the exact kind of recruit that would play and thrive under Steve Klingscale. Physically, he's about 180 pounds. I can see him playing that 190, 195, even 200 range. He's not skinny, but he still has room to grow. His arms are long. He just plays with he plays very physical, especially at the point of attack and coverage, in that, one-on-one situation on an island. So, based on those 2 games, I think Michigan is getting a really good cornerback. And if he comes in early, which he's working on doing so, I could see him, getting early playing time if he progresses the way he should be. We've seen Michigan not afraid to throw out freshman cornerbacks. Obviously last year, Jair Hill, Cameron Calhoun, DJ Waller all got significant playing time, especially in the early part of the season. So I think that would be beneficial, especially learning under someone like, Will Johnson. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can bring to Michigan as early as next year. But, with Zach Ludwig too, out of Pittsburgh, a little south of Pittsburgh, actually. We know that he is the nephew of Michigan strength and conditioning coach Ben Herbert. His recruitment was a little wonky, I guess you can say, committing but not having it go public until 2 months later. But I've seen him twice, once for a game, once for just a meetup. I think the first one was in April. The last one was in late October. I think throughout that period, I really wanted to see him get some weight on him and just muscle mass, just get some more strength on him. You could see that vividly in that game that I saw, which for his team, he was the starting quarterback, both Wildcat and traditional, starting Mike, and he's the long snapper. He never left the field when I saw him until the coaches forced him to leave. I know we've talked about this before, like that Rocky Balboa nickname that I heard and everyone else around me heard that was given to him. I think it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. He's just a kid who gives just unprecedented effort anytime he's on the field. I think he's definitely one that people are inspired by. Fans, parents at that school, coaches, they just talk about him with such great affinity that it just makes so much sense. He's that old school Mike linebacker in a 4-3 front. He just comes downhill, very violent, crashes the line of scrimmage. In terms of his future at Michigan, it's to be determined how far he rises up that ranks at the linebacker spot. I mean, let's just be honest. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a couple things that need to be proved, but one thing that's not going to be doubted about him when he's at Michigan is going to be his effort. I mean, clearly Jim Harbaugh saw what I'm talking about. He's that kind of guy who would work well in that culture that Harbaugh has established. It's that 110% that I feel like is just going to get him on the field in some way or fashion, whether it's on defense, whether it's on special teams, it really doesn't matter. I expect him to be on field at some point during his career. It's just a matter of where. I think special teams is going to be great. Kickoff, kick return, punt return. He's just that kid who's going to leave it all on the field. And that's the type of kid that Jay Harbaugh, specifically a special teams coordinator, values a lot. So I'm looking forward to see what his career looks like. And I'm really glad I got to see him twice and really just share his story on the Wolverine.com.
So we got a super chat here. Well, Zach got a super chat from the J White 5199 says, shout out to Libby for the intel. Man is working hard. So Libby getting some love tonight. Keaton Batman also showing Libby a little heart there. Yeah, so one more official visitor to break down. On300 linebacker Jaden Smith, who obviously is committed to Michigan, is coming in for his OV. Remember, Smith committed to Michigan after making an unofficial visit in the summer, and he stayed completely solid with the Wolverines throughout the process. Now, obviously, Chris Partridge is no longer on staff. He was fired during the whole situation that we don't want to get into, but Jaden Smith is still locked in. I've checked in with his mentor, and he told me that they love the Michigan program and what it has to offer on and off the field. He was back for the game against Ohio State last month and really enjoyed his time there. Jesse Minter has done a fantastic job of picking up where Partridge left off. And Minter was obviously always involved in this recruitment as well. Rick Minter, his father, has been really involved in this recruitment as well. And Jim Harbaugh made the in-home visit last week. So nothing to really worry about here. There were some other schools that reached out to Jaden Smith, but he just didn't show a ton of interest. He just loves what Michigan has to offer on and off the field. As far as, Jaden as a player, he's interesting. His rankings kind of vary from site to site. I have him graded as a 4-star, not in the On300. I have him graded as a low 4-star, but that could come back to bite me. He's so unpredictable. This is a kid with an extremely high ceiling and a low floor as well. So I think going to a program like Michigan where you can get developed and where they can teach you the technical standpoints of things is definitely going to benefit him. When I went out and saw him play in his season opener in August, I said, man, this guy has everything you want. He just doesn't really know what he's doing right now. So, and that's how I felt about him when I saw him in the spring too. So right after Michigan offered him in the spring, I saw him at the Under Armour Charlotte camp. And I wrote, I think Chris Partridge has found something in this Jaden Smith kid. He's long, he's athletic, he's super fast for his size. He just doesn't know what he's doing. And it's kind of the same thing in the fall. It's like this kid has it. He just doesn't know what he's doing, but he goes out there and he's a headhunter. He's tremendous on special teams. He's one of the best special teams players I've ever seen. He's a guy that I think led the state of North Carolina in block punt. He regularly makes tackles on kickoff. He is going to be a Jay Harbaugh favorite from day one. I could see him getting on the field as a true freshman solely on the kickoff team or the punt team. Like, just go down there and kill somebody. He will do that. But like I said, he's long, he's athletic. I think he's best suited for probably the will spot, but he can come off the edge too if needed. He's one of those positionless defensive athletes that Michigan took this cycle. But again, I love his upside. I'm scared of the floor, which is why my ranking is so conservative. But Jaden Smith is a really, really exciting prospect, in my opinion. I would have loved to have seen him again later in the season. It looked like he finished with a great statistical year, and I'm going to go back and watch some of his senior film. But just seeing him live twice, you can see that athleticism, you can see that upside in literally a matter of 30 seconds. Like that's how easy of a wow factor he creates. Now it's just all about developing, adding weight. He's still on the skinnier side, and just, learning the mental aspect of the game, getting cleaned up technically. So I think Smith, again, has a lot of upside here. So we didn't get an off-topic question tonight, Zach. Unfortunately, people were not having fun tonight. So we'll end the show with this random off-topic question. If I look exhausted, it's because I am. I just drove to Maryland and back today and met with Devin Baxter and Dominic Nichols. So I asked Devin Baxter in one of our little video interview things that we're doing for signing day. I said, Devin, what is your best or what's your go-to pregame meal, right? And so Baxter was like, I have a pregame and a postgame meal. And I was like, okay, well, give me your pregame and postgame meal. This sounds like a Zach Libby move, right? And so it's like, yeah, he's just downing stuff before and after the game. So he gets a giant club on the sub from Firehouse Subs before the game. And then after the game, he gets a 20-piece McNuggets and a large Sprite. So my question to you, Zach, is what is better from the Devin Baxter postgame, pregame combo? Is his pregame meal of a gigantic Firehouse Sub better, or a postgame meal of 20 McNuggets?
McNuggets. Like, you get like 4 dipping sauces with that. You can get a medium fry too. No salt, obviously. And then like a large Coke, you're good to go.
No salt? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, if you order fries with no salt, they have to make a new batch, so they come out very hot.
Oh, look at this. Zach learning the tricks and the trades. I'll have to tell that to Devin Baxter. I personally don't know which one I would go with. I don't think I could finish either meal. I told Dev that I would just get Chick-fil-A nuggets, but he told me that he's sick of them because everybody always gets Chick-fil-A and he's more of a McDonald's guy. So guess I can't knock Devin Baxter for being more of a McDonald's guy. I'd probably go with, I enjoy a sub, and I really don't know what chicken nuggets at McDonald's are made out of. Like at Chick-fil-A, they're clearly, chicken. At McDonald's, I don't know if they're chicken or not. I think it's like rib meat or something.
They could be
good. They are good.
They could be ostrich knees for all I care. Like they at 2 a.m. or something, they are the best snack ever. See,
people are downing me for putting down the McDonald's nuggets. They are nasty, but they do taste good. I just don't know what they are. And I told Devin, if I'm now into my 30s, and if I eat a 20-piece McNugget meal, I would not be able to get out of bed the next day. Zach, you're still in your prime. You're still in your 20s, so I'm sure you would be able to handle it.
Did you tell Dom to do a combined chicken 10 nugget sub at Sheetz gas station?
Oh my God, get out of here. We don't have time for Jay White says chicken guts equals sacks. Those little nuggets do look like sacks, but yeah, no, I don't know, man. That was such a weird combo from Devin Baxter. And if you look at Devin Baxter, who's another kid with just such high upside in this class, I mean, he looks like a chiseled physical specimen. You're like, wow, this kid's 6'5.5", 235 pounds. I mean, just looks already like a college player, like first guy off the bus. And this man's downing a extra large club on a sub before the game and a 20-piece McNuggets. He's not even gaining any weight. What's going on with him? So, yeah, I don't know, man. I will say that when I was younger, I did, go to McDonald's every now and then, but the one item I always wanted was never available because their ice cream machines are always broken. Like I wanted a McFlurry all the time. They never had them. So I would still take a McFlurry today. I would take a McFlurry today over some McNuggets for sure. But I'm sure their ice cream machine, you know, since 1999 has still been out of order. But anyway, that gives you some insight into the pregame meals of Devin Baxter, which was way more interesting than Dominic Nichols, who told me that his pregame meal, or he doesn't have a pregame meal, his postgame meal is a Chipotle burrito with no beans because he thinks beans are disgusting, even though he's going to Chipotle. What thoughts on beans, Zach? Are you nodding? You're agreeing that you don't like beans?
No, I mean, I was just like, you know, but like Chipotle beans are good. Like, there's nothing wrong at Chipotle. You can't get anything bad at Chipotle.
I told Dom, I was like, if you're going out to Chipotle and you're not getting beans, it's kind of weird, but I guess to each their own. But anyway, we appreciate you guys for joining us tonight. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free. Take advantage of the $1 for 1 month deal over at thewolverine.com for great recruiting information. And I will be back tomorrow to answer all of your questions, and we'll be exactly a week away from National Signing Day. So yes, it'll be exciting. So anyway, we'll see you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Zach will be back next week.